Greetings. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. Just a little tune in on this day. I have to tell you I don't know if you followed my journey along the way, but I got this spider bite back before all of the quarantine stuff happened. And it just ate my leg here, and I broke out everywhere, and I'm all out of this CBD lotion, which saved my life. This is Shikai. I don't know. I bought their lotion before, but of all the things I tried to put on this to help it heal, and I think it's because I was doing oil-based, but this CBD lotion was like the miracle thing that finally caused it to reduce aggravation and go away. So I thank the cannabis plant for that, because that was key in my healing process. And then right after that, though, the whole world shut down. So it was interesting how I went through my own shutdown, and of course it was only 6 weeks. I was doing it solely for myself, right? And so now we have the whole world that's been going through this shutdown. And I remember at the beginning, having just gone through a quarantine myself and this experience of the wound, I had this thought, oh, I know how this is going to go because I just did it. Like I had this deja vu kind of thing about it where I was like, I already did this. And first it's going to seem like, what is this? Oh no. And then it's going to be like, oh, I think this is getting better. It's not that bad. And then it's going to get worse. And then you're going to freak out. And then it's going to look like it's going away slowly. And then you're going to suddenly think you're going to die. Like I had this moment. And I even went to the emergency room where it was getting so bad and so black and blue and just not healing that I was like, I'm going to get sepsis or something. Like I just had this near-death experience where it became so intense that something so small could get out of hand this way. And I had this moment of facing death. It was like a face-off, if you will, like in my own psyche. And I know it sounds weird, but this was like racking my life, and it wasn't getting better, and it was festering, and it was getting worse, and I was trying everything on it. And I'm a natural medicine person, so I was doing everything I could think of on every level. I was going through a cleanse. I was drinking lots of, clean water. I was doing green drinks. I was hardly doing anything besides what would really purify my system. And I even lost a little weight during that time, which for me was a little freaky, but I didn't feel like I could feed myself normally. I felt like I needed to address my bloodstream. So I was doing blood cleansing herbs. I was putting crystals on it. I was doing energy work. I was doing tons of meditation. I was doing a lot of inner healing work because I was finding myself connected to spider medicine in this way where I was recognizing the lesson that was trying to be taught to me. And I really do. I believe animal totemery is true. Animals, they hold a part of our awareness in the allness that maybe we can't always access on our own in our humanness. Because it takes an expansion of our consciousness to be able to hold all the things that crystals hold, that animals hold, that plants hold. There are specific sectors, if you will, of the consciousness of the one that is all-inclusive and is everything. God is one consciousness that, in my viewpoint, my experience, that then expresses itself through all this myriad of ways, different aspects. And animals and insects, they also are representative of something in the all, right? So when you look at what animals do and how they express themselves, that's like the portion of us that we are getting to learn, right? So because the spider came and bit me and it created so much havoc in my body, it really caused me to reflect deeply on why a spider, what a spider showing me. And and this is a profound thing that reminds me actually of my journey with crystals. And I've got one of my favorite crystals here with me today. And I actually used to collect rocks. We're just going to do a little sweep here. As a little girl, I would go out. We lived at the end of a long lane with a big rock circle at the end and a big green area out in front of us with this metal spider, actually. I'm realizing right now, wow. Out in the middle of the field that we climbed on. What a thing. I had a spider totem even back then. I'm just now making this connection in your presence. So we're just doing a little sweep here. Anyway, I used to collect all the prettiest rocks that I could find in the neighborhood, in the circle, down in the forest. When I go walking around, I'd bring them back and I'd put them in my bottom drawer in a shoe box until I would break the runner of the drawer and my mother would say, "Throw those rocks out." So I would go throw the rocks back out in the circle, sort of sadly. But then I would instinctively begin collecting them again. Every time I saw that, I couldn't stop. Until maybe enough discouragement or enough other things took my attention. And I sort of left that part of my life behind until much later in my life, in about the year 2000, about 20 years ago, I went to India for the first time with my partner at the time, who had been a Southeast Asian religious studies major in college, and really wanted to take me there where he'd been and show me. And what an important part of my awakening journey that was. First of all, to just confront a very different reality in terms of poverty and cleanliness, which as I move more and more out of duality, I see that less contrasting in the way that one is better than the other. Because there's actually a lot of positives in that sort of petri dish, if you will, of reality that I found lacking in my Western culture. And it was like a treasure hunt to go over there. And I remember walking down the streets in Pushkar, Rajasthan, upper Western India, and just seeing crystals everywhere. Something in me awakened, something in me remembered my love for stones and my love for crystals. Here's just one of my little bowls right now. And I remember I started walking around and I saw a book on the shelf that was The Healing Power of Gemstones. And I had been into healing work already for some time. My mother and my father, when I was young, my father had a lot of health issues and he was on a lot of medications. And my mother thought she was going to lose him and she wanted to do something, anything. And she came across some information on herbs and on diet and nutrition, and she ended up taking my father to this camp where they changed their diet, actually went vegan at that time. And growing up, we were, kind of in a farm setting. We had my cousins had cows, and we had fresh milk, and my mom would make the butter, and we had the garden, and we would grow all of the fruits and vegetables in our huge, awesome yard out in Boring, Oregon, where I grew up, by that field, and with peacocks, chirping in the back, and she would make fresh jam, and it's actually something I still dream of returning to. And my mom would do art all day, and my dad would work, and the kids would all play. Anyway, so seeing the stones reminded me of that, and there was something already innately healing in finding the stones again and returning to their majesty, the miracle of all the colors, that were just growing naturally in these rocks. And so I ended up buying a little pouch with all the different colors for the chakras as described in the book. And because I knew a little bit about chakras at that point, but not a lot. And I remember taking the little bag of stones, kind of like this. Let's see. Like a little bag like this. And it was a lapis, I remember, that I don't know where that particular piece went anymore. But it was a little squarish rectangle piece of lapis lazuli that I ended up working with, that I'm having this experience, this memory that I'm coming back to the original story with the spider. Anyway, I'd read through the book and I had held the different stones and they were telling what they would be good for. And I had read that the lapis helped with fevers. And that just kind of stuck in my mind, thinking, oh, interesting, I wonder how that works. Well, within not very long, the crystals decided to give me an initiation on what exactly that did mean. And pretty soon I had this extremely high fever. It was, we had a thermometer, it was reaching up to 104 degrees. And my partner that was with me had the good old Lonely Planet guidebook and was reading all the possible illnesses you could get in Western India. And of course, one of them that had high fevers, because I was probably 104 and a little, you know, it was reaching up toward 105, and he was reading about Japanese bee encephalitis and the very high fever associated and the sort of delirium that I was experiencing. And he was starting to freak out that we were in the middle of nowhere and I could have this thing, and it just crossed my mind to grab the stones. And I just said, bring me the stones. Okay, so he brings me my bag of stones. I find the little square lapis, which right now I really wish I had that piece. I grabbed that piece and I just held it in my hands and I just ended up falling asleep. And I don't know how long that I slept for, but I do know that at a certain point my arm relaxed down and the stone fell out of my hand and onto the stone floor in that room in Pushkar, India, and it woke me up. And when I woke up, I felt like the fever was gone. I felt completely better. I could tell that I'd broken a sweat. I was all moist under my back, and I called for my friend to come in, and I told him to pick up the stone on the floor, and he picked it up and he was like, ow, this is burning hot. And he put it in my hand, and sure enough, it was burning hot. And we took my temperature and I had no fever anymore. And so in the span of the few hours or whatever that I slept, and I don't know how long it was, could have been up to 4 or 5 hours, that stone, it healed me. And I bring that story up because I had, from that moment, a different experience with crystals. Crystals became my allies and my guardians and my friends, and they really began to speak to me. Their properties began to communicate with me when I needed them, what to do with them. And I acquired at that time a deck of crystal cards, and it became the first oracle cards that I worked with, and I read them all the time, and I really got to know the stones and their meaning. And they stayed with me. They taught me for many years. So I'm brought back to this story as I'm really feeling the area where the spider bit me, and I'm recognizing how much this spider medicine had impacted me in the same way that experience with lapis lazuli did. And so right now, for some reason, it is feeling aggravated again. So like I was telling you, I was, during that time of healing, I was doing a lot of inner work, and I was really like pondering, considering, what is spider medicine? What does spider do? It is the web weaver, right? And it is the, almost like, looks like the matrix. It is the network. It is the, that World Wide Web conjures the image of the spider web, because that's how we know what a web is, and the intricacy of that design, and how each piece is really connected to every other piece, even if they're on the other side of the web, right? And so as I was working with healing around the spider bite, I definitely like reached my consciousness into the network, into the web of reality, and was communicating with it, what needs to be reworked, what in the network wants to be rewoven, what and I, specifically thinking about myself, but also how it relates to the whole that we are in. And so I did a lot of work around that, around my ideas of relationship and money and healing and education, and how we can relate to one another. And it's strange and mysterious to me how the way that my healing process worked and went along and finally completed itself literally like a day before this massive worldwide lockdown, which has sort of happened with the same effect as spider affected me. It was almost like spider medicine was warning me of what was to come, not just for me, but for the all of this tearing down of the old web, the old network, and that it was going to be painful for a little bit, and that it would go through these waves of thinking it was going to be better and then needing to get to a deeper level still. And so I bring this up because I feel the bite area speaking to me, and I feel it's a message. I feel like it's spider medicine talking to me. And this is how I feel like the totems have, this is how the totems have connected with me, is through this particular medicine for some reason. And this isn't the first time I've had a giant spider bite, and I'm having to itch it right now because it's insanely in need. Years ago, I had another spider bite, and actually the same ankle. Instead of here, I had it here, but it was very close, and it did the same thing for 6 weeks. And I guess I just didn't get the message then. I wasn't in the state of mind to realize it. In fact, my healing experience with that one was very different. I ended up leaving where I was living and flying home to where my family was, my parents were, and because my mom had been the herbalist, even though I also studied herbs, and I wanted her care. Like, I wanted her healing support because I didn't feel like I could do it myself. And she did so many poultices of herbs, and we did so much around it, and it wasn't healing still. And I remember how that completed was I ended up having this complete tantrum. Like, I had a complete emotional breakdown where I literally laid on the ground and kicked and screamed like a 2-year-old. And my sister was there, and she witnessed, and she just held space, and she just said, do it, go into it, feel it all. And I ended up crying and kicking and screaming, and then I just literally itched my leg raw, the way that you would say never do that. But I did, and the next day it went away. And so I bring this up, the way that the last one went away is that I got to the point where I faced death. Remember, I got to this death moment where this time the healing journey, instead of asking for help, I did go into the emergency. I did consult my friends who was a naturopath. I did talk to some of my other emotional helpers, but I did a lot of inner work. And when I faced the death portal with this, and then I ended up going to the hospital just in case there was infection in my bloodstream, just in case I wasn't catching it. It really was that. And the doctors, the professionals there, took one look at it, tested some of the skin, and was like, no, it's fine. We actually just need to scrape this all off. And so painfully, they just scrubbed all of the skin, scrubbed me raw, which is actually what I ended up doing to myself the time before. So I did receive assistance. And after that, and after the assurance that no, you're not going to die, you're good. And just lightly bandaging and, getting a different kind of bandage than I'd been using. And just like simple things. The next day, everything started to clear up. So at this point in reality right now, there's a choice point. I feel like I'm doing this video because we're at a choice point where things could progress into the place that pushes us over the edge into needing to claim the healing through the death gate, through the tantrum point where we just completely lose it or we think all is lost. Or we can ignite that in ourselves. We can go through that portal ahead of time. We can work that through in our being and in our body and in our mind. And like bring it all to the table ahead of time. Like someone who self-heals doesn't wait to get pushed over the edge and forced into it, which sometimes we have to have that forced change. But we can also just choose to go through the changes that are needed, that are necessary. So that was a lot of talking. We're going to pull a card that perhaps will speak to that. So we'll just ask Spirit, ask God, we'll ask Source of our lives, because this is really, I think, the invitation is, as humanity, as planet Earth, we have drifted so far away from our interconnectivity to the source of our existence. And we have drifted into different forms of worship, if you will, different things that we've made sacred, like movies, like sports. And the asking right now is to return to the sacred, to return to the acknowledgement of all is holy, that every moment is a God moment, is the great remembrance that we are each other's brothers and sisters, that we are family, and some of our family members are in trouble right now. Which means there's certain parts of ourselves that we haven't cared for because we are all connected. So, Amaru, the beautiful place, comes today. These are the Earth Warrior Oracle cards by Alana Fairchild. Just beautiful art, and the writings in here I can't even summarize. It's just straight up beautiful, poetic, so I'll have to, and inspired. So I'll hold the card and read to you about the beautiful place. Your dreams of a more beautiful world are not a product of a childish fantasy nor idle imagination. They are true spiritual visions inspired by the universal heart that yearns for divine paradise to be manifested in all worlds. You have a life purpose to assist in the creation of divine harmony in the world through sacred activism and the expression of your soul talents. Believe that the beautiful world you long for is not only possible, but part of your spiritual responsibility to create. Don't be scared to face a problem head on. You don't need to be willful about a solution, but in facing these issues, you shall simplify the complexity and recognize the practical steps that will create healing change. Keep your mind and heart open as you ask for unconditionally loving guidance as to how you best evoke divine healing in any situation. There's an outcome available to you that is far more beautiful and divinely inspired than what you can currently envision. Ask for divine help and trust unconditionally in the assistance that will lead you away from the limitations of your current thinking and into the perfection of what the divine wishes for you and our world. It has been said that peace is not merely the absence of war. Earth warriors understand that we need to fight for peace in this world, using our strength, our courage, creativity, intelligence, and will to continually align with the peaceful presence within us. Saboteurs will want you to believe that peace is passive, that it involves denial or detachment from the world, that it isn't relevant, practical, or helpful, or doesn't create change, and that to rest in peace is some sort of unhealthy spiritual indulgence. They will try to convince you of these lies in order to keep you from accessing this powerful weapon against hate. A human being with peace in their heart sees more clearly, is more willing, able, and effective in acting on their spiritual guidance, bringing a genuine and potent healing effect into the world. Such humans are harder to manipulate, distract, and disempower. Amaru is a term used by the first peoples of Australia to express the concept of paradise. In Aboriginal culture, there are said to be songlines that follow sacred pathways stretching across the land. Each song line conveys a particular story through its song. The language and interpretation of stories shared in each song line is unique. It takes contributions from all the many and varied groups within Aboriginal culture for the assembling of the song lines into a coherent whole to be possible. The song lines could only be understood in their entirety by an individual if that person spoke all the languages and understood all the cultural nuances encoded in its length. The wisdom of the song lines can be instructive for the Amaru dreamers that we are, the ones who are passionate about creating paradise for all on earth. No one person can accomplish this on their own. If we work together, educating, encouraging, inspiring, and helping each other, not only on a personal level and spiritually, but with intelligent connection that allows for interdisciplinary and intercultural conversations, we can, as a whole, learn to follow the sacred pathways of the earth. We can work with her to manifest a human culture that enhances and expresses her divine wisdom and beauty. We each do our part together. We need inspired individuals who will engage with each other for our better and more beautiful world to continue to be birthed. We need inspired individuals who will engage with each other for our better and more beautiful world to continue to be birthed. When we honor what we ourselves have to offer and are willing to share it with others, and also honor what others have to offer and are willing to receive it, we will find fellow earth warriors with kindred spirits and helping hands in unexpected places. We will be able to assist each other in eschewing cynicism and boredom, and we will instead learn things from each other, become informed and empowered. We will not believe in the lie that we are somehow a victim of the systems in place. No. Instead, we can be inspired by our ability to evoke the healing change needed through our own inner transformation, sharing our talents and encouraging others to be generous with their gifts. We rally each other to the fulfillment of divine purpose. We embrace the healing innovations that are already happening and lend the power of innovation, of our talents and resources, our voices, and our support only to that which belongs in paradise. Earth warriors, there are enough of us now. We do not need to wait any longer. We are already working in many fields, ready for this moment of empowered creation and divine opportunity. We are the wild, divine visionaries who do not only see but do. Let us continue to rally and to rise. The healing process is to relax as you shift your awareness now within. So if you'll do that with me, and just shift your awareness to within yourself, to feel, visualize, or imagine that you can see Earth Mother beneath you, as if your spirit were hovering above her. You can see, feel, or sense the beautiful, energetic songlines that weave themselves along sacred pathways, curving around our Mother Earth. Each songline is unique and essential. Each songline leads itself like an instrument in an orchestra to the collective wisdom song of the sacred feminine. No songline demands that another be silenced or become the same. All the differences are required for the full beauty of the wisdom song to emerge. When you are ready, repeat with me the following. Let there be peace on earth. Let human culture on earth be a culture of encouragement, of optimism, innovation, engagement, wisdom, reflection, community, and guardianship of the planet and of each other for the spiritual benefit of all beings. Let this be now, that our future is the most blessed and beautiful vision of paradise. By the hand of the loving Supreme Being and our own free will, so be it. Place your hands at your heart, bow your head. This process of healing is now complete. A beautiful blessing. I never know what's going to come in when I turn this camera on, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be with you here, to allow this beautiful wisdom to come in and to be shared with us through me, through this moment, and through your witnessing and participating. We, I believe, received a charge this day. And so with that, may we go forth. And remember, much of the charge is to hold the charge, to be the love, to continue to refine the personal essence so that when we're called into, when the call comes to connect with, to share, that we are prepared. And the calling is now. We are each responsible for a song line. And together we weave the song of our future days. So let us attune now to hear what is ours to play, to do. Is there anything else we need to do here today? Yes, you need to drink some water. So for those of you who don't know what this crystal is, this is a selenite. And it actually is very clearing. I don't know if you can feel it on that side, but it has the energy of clearing and clarifying, bringing clarity. There's also a self-healing crystal. By that it means any energy that it picks up on, it is able to self-clear where other stones need assistance. And I believe that is like us as well. You know, when we're not as clear, maybe we're feeling a little bit more dense in our consciousness. I don't mean stupid, I just mean feeling heavier, holding a lot. Like this black with the pink, this rhodonite. Sometimes we need help from someone else to clear us, to help us really feel what's ours and what is stuff that we've picked up. And the clearer we become, which comes through pressure, right? The diamond is created through great pressure. As the pressure and the stresses assist us, give us the pushback so that we can perform the act of becoming clear. Clarity doesn't just happen, it's a process of alchemy, right? We're pushing back into the thing that's not making us clear, the thing that's making us foggy. Either we're surrendering into it so that we can see into why it's there, or we're pushing against it and we're allowing it to kind of burn through us, if you will. Like anger, for example. Anger can either be destructive to us, cause us to hurt ourselves or others, or it becomes a source of power if we turn it around and let it fuel us, right? So our emotional states are gifts from the divine, gifts from the higher order to experience in these vessels, to then direct for the good of our lives and those around us. And it's up to us to learn mastery